Okay, go ahead, Mary. You start your recording. Oh my. Mary, you're going to need to go through. I thought these were set to mute. Just click on the bottom, mute all. And then unmute. Then all of our speakers, please Well, good morning. I'm Alice Newland, President of the League of Women Voters of Manatee County. On behalf of the League, I welcome you to our presentation today on the extension of the school tax referendum. This is being recorded and will be available on our website. Any use of the recording other than for individual viewing must get permission of the League. We voters have to make an important decision on November 2nd, whether or not to approve the extension of the school millage. And one thing is for certain, nobody likes taxes, but we also don't like poorly funded schools and teacher shortages. So the question today is, what was the need for these additional funds and how has the school district used them? What are the current needs? How are the funds accounted for and monitored? How did this extra funding improve student outcomes? And are there other funds to satisfy these needs? Our format today is a debate. It will be timed. Each side of the debate will have 15 minutes for an initial presentation, and that will be followed by 5 minutes per side for rebuttal. We are pleased to have with us today 4 speakers. Speaking about the uses and needs for the referendum are Superintendent of Schools, Cynthia Saunders, and co-chair of ForwardManatee, Dr. Denise Davis-Cotton. Speaking against the referendum is Christopher Carman, board member of Manatee Patriots and a political consultant, and Amanda Ballard, attorney and child advocate. If you would like a fuller background of our speakers, please email, and I'll put that in chat, or somebody can put it in chat, info@lwvmanatee.org, and we will send it right out to you. Our timer today will be League of Women Voters member, Mary Lynn Parker. After the debate, Mary Lynn will present questions from our viewers. In order to answer as many questions as possible within our limited time frame, we will ask you to put your questions in chat. You can indicate the speaker you would like to answer the question or propose it to the group as a whole. Then they will have 2 minutes to answer, followed by a 2-minute rebuttal. We try to make it as fair as possible. We thank our speakers, and we will begin with the side that supports the referendum.
Thank you very much, and I appreciate this opportunity to present to the community why we should continue the one mill that was chosen to be elected in 2018. And as you know, this is our first renewal, and it's been up for just a few short years, but I do have some data points and some wonderful progress that I can show that it is working, and that is why we really do feel that this community should continue to support it. One such thing that was on our referendum was for the 30 additional minutes that our students would receive if the millage were passed. We knew that some of our neighboring counties had 30 extra minutes of instruction, and with that instruction, it really was going to translate into better outcomes. One additional year is added to a child's education from kindergarten through 12th grade with just that 30 extra minutes. It's amazing. It's amazing what other counties have had, and Manatee has not until 2018. So you may say, how can you say that the millage made a difference to the academics? I can tell you, after the implementation, we now have all of our schools rated C and above. It never occurred from the time of accountability of No Child Left Behind until now. So all of our schools are rated C and above. In 2016, our ranking out of 67 counties was 41st. After the first year of implementation of the millage, we're now ranked 28th. It is making a difference. Other initiatives that were part of our referendum was we really wanted to make sure we were retaining and recruiting quality staff. Because our pay was so substantially less, our workforce was leaving to our surrounding neighbors, and we were having a hard time attracting and retaining those individuals. We know that we are not going to have the academic outcomes without quality teachers. This community is growing. People are choosing to move here because of our wonderful school system, because of the wonderful community, because of the jobs. That would not happen if we're not able to retain and keep our workforce. And I will tell you, our salaries are now competitive. We are seeing that we're able to begin the school year with the quality teachers in front of each and every one of our students. In addition, we have grown by 1,300 students, this time at the 10-day count compared to last year. Families would not be coming to Manatee County if they did not feel passionate about the quality of education that they would receive. Another initiative that was on our referendum was that we were going to continue and expand our STEM programs as well as our vocational programs, because we know that the workforce is essential. We have got to be training our students for the next year's employment need within Manatee County. As you know, we have been able to launch the first career pathway school with the Steve Wozniak initiative. That has been able to continue and thrive and grow, not only with the millage, but also with the support of Governor DeSantis. In addition, we have an entrepreneurship program that we've been able to expand and put in place in a number of our high schools. And the latest endeavor is our partnership with University of South Florida with the expansion of a Bloomberg finance class. So we will be having dual enrollment courses that are also going to support this initiative. The only thing different that we placed on this ballot versus 2018 is our expansion of the arts program. After hindsight, we did feel that we did want to put some more additional resources in that endeavor. We know that there are many students that would benefit, just like our vocational and our STEM programs have. So that is one change that you will see this year, when it comes around in November versus 2018. I know there's been some question about financial oversight. And in years past, I would agree that our district in 2012 was not in favorable rating, but that's not the case today. We are rated an A financial district by all the financial institutions. We also have a community oversight committee that verified that the dollars that were brought in were spent according to the referendum language. So there is also full transparency. You're welcome to go to our district website. You can see that the dollars brought in and the dollars spent. So we definitely want to make sure that the community sees that we are spending our dollars as intended, and they really are making a difference. We have oversight. We also have data that will support the success of what we've been able to achieve in just this very short time. Now I'd like to turn it over to Dr. Cotton.
Good morning. First, let me say that the views and opinions of my personal passion and expression do not represent the views of my university or my employment. I am an 11-year resident of Manatee County. And I do what I do because I want to make a cement. I want to make a footprint in the cement of every school. That is a direction to every teacher, to every child, to every program, every minute, of every second of every day in this community. I support this because I have seen how the referendum is working, and I want to keep it going. I am a staunch proponent and supporter of arts education. And I am delighted to see that the arts have been added to this referendum. Students come to school every single day, and they sit in classrooms with their hopes and their dreams, their fears of failure, their desires to be successful, a range of emotions and experiences to succeed. They encounter new challenges, but they also receive opportunities that this referendum will give them. Those of you who are businessmen and women understand how important the new creative industry is, not only for our community or for our district, but also employers who look for future workforce, people in the workforce, look for creativity. They look for those who have those innovation skills. This referendum will help students become prepared to participate in STEM education and career and workforce development fields that are not even seen today. We have to prepare them now. And now is the right time to add the arts to the referendum, to support it, and to grow programming and opportunities so that our kids, so that our students, so that our teachers could achieve and succeed in a well-rounded district that provides a first-rate, high-quality, well-rounded education system, programs and opportunities for our children to grow, to learn, to thrive, and to survive. Thank you.
Amanda?
All right. My name is Amanda Ballard. I am an attorney. I work in the child welfare system, but more importantly, I am a mom of two little girls, the older of whom is actually in VPK here in Manatee County. And currently in Manatee County, there is a $1 billion budget for schools. We have 49,000 students in our county. According to the Department of Education, over the past 5 years or so, per student, we've been spending about $12,000 to $14,000. These are actually some of the highest expenditures per student in the state outside of Monroe County, which is a little bit of a different situation. It's the Florida Keys. So what are we getting for all of that money for our kids? Only 49% of third graders in Manatee County are reading on grade level. This is a huge problem. It's been very, very well documented that children that don't read on grade level by third grade have huge disparities in their future success. There's a local private school, and actually there are multiple local private schools who are charging less than $7,000 a year per student. One in particular has their third grade students scoring at a fifth grade level on their Iowa assessment standardized test. For their high school students, they're having them score 4 points above the Florida average on their ACT test. They're having an average score of 175 points higher than the Florida average on their SAT scores. So again, we're spending $12,000 to $14,000 a student, whereas local private schools parents are spending about $7,000 a student, and they're coming out with much better outcomes. So why are we continuing to give more and more tax dollars to this bloated budget when it's not helping our children to succeed? I believe that the school board needs to restructure their budget to use their funds more effectively to actually help students succeed. We agree with Ms. Saunders and the doctor that teacher pay in Manatee County absolutely 100% should be competitive, but it can and should be done without increasing taxes. Again, our budget's $1 billion. There's absolutely no reason except for politics to make teacher pay contingent on, to make their pay contingent on an unstable funding source like this tax. Teachers are being used as political pawns. In 2020-2021, that school year, the general fund for teacher pay was $314 million, but only $301 million of that was spent. Instead of spending that $13 million on teacher pay, they instead relied on this unstable funding source from the mill. Another fact is that so far the district has not even spent all of the money it has brought in from the current tax. So the tax was supposed to be bringing in about $33 million a year. Due to rising property values that first year, it actually brought in $37 million. Year 2, $40 million. Year 3, $43 million. This year, which will be year 4, it's going to bring in $47 million. So they have already received 50% more than the original request. Since the district couldn't spend all of the money that they've asked for, they've decided to include new places to actually use that money, including the arts as a new portion of this referendum. The district has admitted that about 10% of the budget is what they call low-hanging fruit or waste. We need to be cutting the waste and putting that toward teacher pay. Here's another example of waste within the district. We are spending about $29 million. We've spent about $29 million on a software system called ERP. That was originally supposed to cost only $9.3 million. But there's another software system that's being used in 2/3 of the districts in the state of Florida. So it's a proven system that would immediately save us $1 million a year. So the fact is that you don't have to just continue throwing additional taxpayer dollars at a problem that's not actually helping kids or teachers. The problems that we're dealing with can be helped by cutting waste and by using the money that we already have, which is a huge amount, using that wisely for the kids that are being served and for the teachers who are working hard in the classroom every day. And so I think that I'll move on and let Mr. Carman make some comments now.
Okay, good afternoon, and thank you everyone for being here on this Monday afternoon for the League of Women Voters Forum debate presentation about the retention of the 1 mil tax. So thank you, League of Women Voters, for inviting me, and I literally mean that because I was actually just invited Friday to replace an individual who was unable to be here, but I am more than willing and able to go on and do this. So thank you very much for inviting me to speak about the retention of the 1 mil tax. Thank you all the other speakers, regardless of which side you're for coming to do this. I know this is something that we are able to help to educate the voters so they get out and vote. Just a little bit about myself. I actually am a 52-year resident of Manatee County. I was actually born in Sarasota, but I lived in Manatee County ever since 2 weeks after birth. I've gone through the entire Manatee County school system. I'm probably the only person on this Zoom meeting that's actually been in the Manatee County school system, unless you're a teacher. I went to Anna Marie Elementary in the beginning for grades K through 5. I then went grades 6 through 7 to W.D. Sugg Middle School, and then I graduated with honors from Bayshore High School in 1987. I don't mind telling you that because back in 1987 and all the years prior, I think we had a little bit of a smaller budget than we do currently, and yet we're actually one of the better school systems in the entire state of Florida. In fact, at that time, Bayshore was one of the best schools in the entire area. I think that has changed a little bit since then, but it's also been made into a different type of school than what it was back then. But just a little about some of the information that has already been mentioned. I went and I just decided to do a quick little research about the money that was spent in Manatee County to see how the year-over-year progress has been. And I happened to go and find something saying back in 2015, just 6 years ago, we were spending $522 million on the entire budget for Manatee County school system. As has been mentioned, we're now spending over $1 billion on the school system. And I'm curious if we think we've gotten that 100% increase in better teaching and better studies from the teachers and the students than what we had 5 years ago. I don't think probably that's the case unless we had like a 25% graduate, 25% rate of people that were reading at the school level and we go up to 49%. That would be the 100% increase, but I don't think that happens to be the case. Also, I do want to go and mention in this whole thing that I'm definitely for well-paid teachers and well-paid individuals that work in the school system. I'm not against the tax because of that. I'm against the tax because of the fact that this is money which I was told was supposed to be an addition, like a bonus money based on what the things that they're doing. But now they are using this as the basic money to do all the basic things that the school system wants. So it's not enhancing anything that we had currently and that we had 4 or 5 years ago or 3 years ago when the tax was actually passed. Also, let's see, as was also previously mentioned, when they wanted the money, they said they needed $33 million immediately back in 2018, and they wanted it passed then and there because it was something that they needed so much. And as was mentioned, we have gotten many more taxes out of the schools for the school system because of the evaluation of all the property plus all the new properties being raised. So much so that instead of getting the $132 million they were asking for, we now have $163 million. And as was mentioned, and one of the informations about the Citizens Financial Oversight Committee, they asked if the prior millage vote in 2018, what it had done and whether it had whether the extra money had actually been used how it was expected to be used. And they said, yes, it was, but they said, well, has it actually gone and benefited and supported the teachers and the students? And they did not find any evidence to support whether the 1 mil tax accomplished the purpose the tax was supposed to be in the first place. So much so as Mrs. Ballard had mentioned that they are just finding other reasons to start using the money about like the arts in the school system. One other thing that I would like to bring up is, like I said, it's definitely very unfortunate and not proper to have an unstable tax system in order to pay for teachers. A lot of people will tell you, well, this would be a $5,200 decrease for students or for the teachers' pay, because if this tax passes, that's how much they'll have their budget reduced. Well, that right there can easily be made up by the $1 billion increase or the $1 billion total budget that the school system has. In fact, Mary Foreman has said that she'd like to start having all the school system pay for the teachers up front and then have this money, if the tax is passed, to go and be used for the enhancement of the system, not for the current billing that we're supposed to be paying for ourselves. So I thank Mary for doing that, because we should be paying for the basics out of our budget, not out of a unstable system, which only can be paid for if the electorate decides to go and pass it every couple of years. And of course, the other thing, which is very interesting regarding how much money they needed, they decided to put this during a special election on the November ballot, which therefore costs the district an extra $400,000. If they are trying to be stewards of our money, then why are they putting it as an extra election for $400,000 where they could have just had it been in the last election in November and we would have saved $400,000 because there already was an election. Currently, because there is no other election going on other than a few small minor municipalities, I think Palm Beach and Anna Maria are having elections, which they as cities pay for. Now the whole county has to pay the $400,000 extra. And now wouldn't that be money we could be using to help pay for kids if they wanted to, if the money was truly going to benefit and enhance the school system as it currently is. And then finally, I think since this is a matter of trust, now do we go and trust the people that are spending our money? Everybody keeps saying that they are spending money carefully and everything, and yet when they ask for a district survey as to what it's being used for, somebody said, what is this money being used for? And the individual in charge of the school system said, well, it really doesn't matter. We'll just find something to spend it on with all the extra money. They didn't have enough to spend currently. They needed more, but they didn't know what exactly they were going to be spending it on. So I just think this is something that if you are wanting to get the value for your money, as I said, currently, 5 years ago, we were only spending $522 million, and I don't think we've seen a almost 100% increase in the value of our money that we've had, let alone just the value for the increase of the $163 million that we've had above and beyond what the school basically pays. And I think I'm at my point right now where that was my 7 minutes. Thank you.
You actually had 1 minute more on our
okay.
timer. So, yeah.
More Q&A, okay.
So I thank our speakers for being very punctual. So we're going to move on. There actually is quite a lively conversation going in chat, but I think it's good for people to hear it. And some people don't know how to get to chat. Our speakers can also, during their presentations, they were not able to call on the audience, but if there was somebody that had a statistic or something that you wanted to refer to, you can, during the Q&A, refer to somebody in the audience and they can unmute themselves. So Mary Lynn, how about you unmute yourself and start questioning our debaters?
I thought we were going to first have the rebut.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. The pro side, you've got a 5-minute rebuttal.
Yes, thank you for that opportunity and opportunity to answer some of those points. And I agree with some of those points. We do have a $1 billion budget. We now, all of our neighbors have an exceeding $1 billion budget as well. But part of that money, as you know, with government are earmarked or capital expenses that cannot be used for discretionary or teacher raises or things of that matter. As you know, some of that money can only be used to purchase air conditioners or to build wings on schools for overcrowding or to purchase school buses or school lunches. So you cannot use or mix or mingle those funds. That is why we needed to go out for the millage tax, because the community does have control of those dollars. They can determine what's needed and ensure that those dollars are spent accordingly, which is what our Citizen Oversight Committee has done so. And the report is also posted on our website, as well as how the money has been spent and all the proceeds of how it has also gone out. We did not spend 100% of the taxes brought in. We spent 96% of the taxes brought in. So you're right, we didn't spend 100%. I'm not sure that the government on any year spends 100%, but it is earmarked out at the beginning of every year with that intention and that need. We did spend it 96%. Our student allocation per child is $7,800. That's what we receive for FTE per child, $7,800. And you are correct. Our third grade reading achievement level is not where we want it to be. We are currently at 49%, but the state is at 54%. I don't think there's anyone in the state of Florida that would say collectively all of our children are reading at the level that we would feel comfortable with. Some of them certainly exceed that. Some of them are below that. And that is why we have joined forces with community leaders like the Patterson Foundation, like Kiwanis, like United Way, to get additional help, because we know that we have students that are coming to Manatee County from all over the world in different countries that need extra assistance that may not be coming in on grade level, but it's our job to take every child and ensure that they're able to be successful and matriculate throughout the system. And I'll put our teachers up against any teachers anywhere. They do a tremendous, tremendous job. Again, the ERP system that was mentioned, that was a decision that was made 7 years ago. And it was made because we had some financial concerns in the district in that year of 2012. They knew that our operation system was probably not current, and it didn't capture our pre-K through 12th grade traditional schools, as well as our technical college. This program was purchased because it captured all of that. The one in question that a couple of others had mentioned that some of the other districts use does not cover the payout or the operation side of a technical college. Our board, our audit committee, our auditor, and the DOE assistants felt that it would be essential for us to have one system that would cover all of our programs financially, and it's working. And that's a wonderful thing. Special election, you are absolutely correct. We kind of followed suit with what our neighbors have done in 2018. We had never been involved in an election of a millage prior, but on this ballot, you will see we've moved it to the presidential election in 24. Why didn't we do it last year? In case we all forgot, we were just trying to make sure that our school was functioning in the middle of COVID. We were one of the first districts that opened up traditional instruction. We had to transform into 3 different learning modalities. And again, we did a yeoman's job. We didn't close a school throughout the entire year. So our thought process after 2 years of a millage election was not to have another campaign. But we did listen to that comment, and we have changed it. This is only a 3-year initiative. It will be on president election. Sorry, thank you.
So I'll just address a couple of points and try to leave a bit of time for Mr. Carman. So again, Miss Saunders did address the fact that a lot of the funds that are available are already earmarked for other purposes. That's understandable. However, something that she did not address is the fact that in the general fund for teachers every year, we have money that is being set aside specifically for teacher pay, and that is not being spent. Instead, we are relying, again, on this unstable funding source. It seems to me that possibly that's being done in order to make a political point. There has been no contingency plan that's been made public in any way about what will happen to teacher pay if this tax isn't continued. I believe that there is some contingency plan in place. If not, that is a very unfortunate thing for the teachers and the districts. And I think it's something, a contingency plan that they need to make immediately if they have not done so. But the fact is that relying on this as a base part of teacher pay to begin with was a truly terrible decision. I believe that it was done in order to use teachers as a political football. The Citizens Financial Oversight Board was also mentioned as saying that they are a way that to keep the money honest, to make sure it's going where it's supposed to. The Oversight Committee has actually identified millions of dollars that were being misspent of the funds. The district actually had to go back in and backfill those dollars that were used incorrectly. There the board has actually whittled away the ability of the Citizens Financial Oversight Board to do their job over the past couple of years. They've cut the number of members, and there's also been automatic inclusion of handpicked district employees who don't even necessarily have to live in Manatee County. I want everyone to understand that the people who are against continuing this tax are not against teachers. They're not against helping students. I just believe that our money is being used in a way that is not the most appropriate, and that there is waste going on that needs to be dealt with so that we can help our kids more effectively. And I'll move on and let Mr. Carman say anything if you'd like to.
You're on mute, sir.
Sorry about that. Puppies in the house and they were barking, so I decided to put myself on mute. Okay, yeah, so thank you already for again saying what you said. Thank you, Amanda, for giving me these last few moments. I don't have much to say, but just one quick thing that I have that I think is important that hasn't been expressed yet is the lack of the district planning. One thing that's constantly been mentioned when I talk to people that do finances and do planning and run businesses is they do the zero-based budgeting. In fact, the district has never bothered to analyze how much the money it really actually needs. And just recently, the board was discussing how it was going to spend the additional 1 mil tax 9 months after they talked about going after the 1 mil tax so far. But there's actually been no talk about what happens if this doesn't pass. They're just assuming it's going to pass, and therefore they're talking about all the extra money they're going to do. But so what is the plan if this mill doesn't pass? There's been no contingency plan, nothing. So that's part of the planning that I think is lacking that definitely should be there. And if I don't have planning for what happens for the tax if it doesn't pass, that kind of makes you wonder what happens during the regular daily basis on when they make their other decisions as to how they make them. That's again just pretty much all I have to say. Thank you everybody for letting us speak here and give our opinions, and I'll give the remainder of my time over to have lots of Q&A.
Now we get to questions. Mary Lynn, you can unmute yourself and start with the questions.
There were several comments and also a question regarding Mrs. Ballard's comparison of a private school with our public school success. One wasn't necessarily a question, but a comment in terms of doubting the price of a private school and where their funding comes from. But the question that does need an answer is, does Ms. Ballard have statistics on the number of ESE and ELL students at that private school? What's the percentage of total enrollment?
No, I absolutely do not have that information. I was not able to obtain that within an easy time frame.
Thank you.
And I will absolutely say that, of course, there are differences in the typical enrollment at a private school in the county versus our public schools. Yes. You typically have parents who care more, who help more, all of those things. But I do think that it's important to note that there are private schools who are providing excellent education for kids at a price point that is lower than what the county is able to provide.
There's a 2-minute rebuttal if you choose to. Or
Yes.
Yes, I'd like to jump in first. First of all, I'd like to say that all parents care about their students. And it doesn't matter if they're from a private school or public school. Public school parents care about their children and they're committed to their children learning. Secondly, I want to say that strong schools make a strong community. And as a person who's involved in this community, I say that it's not waste, it's a win because it's working and we have to keep it going. And arts education is not waste as well. And arts education is fundamental to learning. And I am so delighted that it is a part of this new referendum, because if a child takes at least 4 years of arts in school, the ACT scores increase by 100 points. And that's according to the Americans for the Arts. That data is important because if a child participates in an arts education, they are more likely to participate in math and science fairs. I think that it is essential that we keep this going because it's working, because we want to increase the knowledge of all of our ESE, ELL, gifted and learning students, all populations that are afforded the opportunity to a free and equal guaranteed education that they are receiving in Manatee County. My person that I support here is Superintendent Saunders, because she does provide inclusive and equitable educational opportunities for all children in this community.
If I could add quickly, I don't want to be misunderstood. I'm a child of public school. I went to public school for my entire K through 12, as well as for university and for law school. I in no way say that public school parents don't care. Our daughter is in PK locally and will almost certainly go to public school or maybe charter school in Manatee County.
Ms. Ballard, we have another question. This question was directed to Ms. Saunders in regard to the cost of the special election. There was a question about why is this costing more than the 2018? And then a follow-up question about where is that money coming from to pay for this election?
Absolutely, thank you. The cost is set by the supervisor of election, and I do believe it is due to the increase of population in the county. So that is set by him. You cannot use taxpayer dollars. We have to raise the money or have other funding sources in order to pay for that election. It's approximately $400,000. And that is being paid for by our aftercare programs, which is a service that we provide, a daycare after school is over to parents. That is the funding source that we're using for this election. The next election, again stated, will be on the presidential election after this one is passed. And there will not be a cost because it will be on the ballot for the presidential election in 2024.
Kind of feel like a one-armed paper hanger here.
You want me to do the timing, Mary Lynn?
It would help. I'm trying to scroll because we're getting a lively discussion on the chat. So I'm looking for being able to either summarize it into a question, but it would help, I think, if our viewers would look at chat as well, because the debate goes on. So there is some question when we talk about, I guess, comparable populations served between private entities and the public schools. And so one question was, what % of the county third graders are ESL students? That was one question for clarification. And
did you answer that, ma'am? Or were you just, was that a question to me?
That was a question in terms of one of our participants wants to know what % of the county's third graders are ESL students?
I can give you the district population breakdown. It has changed drastically in 10 years. For the district 10 years ago, we were about 25% ELL. We are now at 35% ELL. So our population coming in with students of different languages have grown tremendously. in the last 10 years. But when they take a third grade test, it is in English. So the longer they stay, the better our teachers do at getting them acclimated to the requirements of the state of Florida. But that is a barrier, and it's a barrier that we have to help overcome, which is why, again, we partner with VPK programs within our Early Learning Coalition, our community supports. It is a bigger issue than just what the school system can do. But the sooner we can get them into school, predominantly in pre-K, the better shot that we have in ensuring that they're on grade level by third grade. And we're improving, but we're not where we should be.
I would request that whenever there's an acronym used like ELL and ERP, that it be defined. So if you could get the definition for those two, it would really help for some of our viewers.
English language learners in enterprise system. We call it resource system. Yes, ERP is really a business software package, which runs your payroll and all your operations is what the ERP is.
Okay.
And ELL is English language learners. So they're all non-English speakers.
English is-
Yes, yes, ma'am. Their English is not their first language, correct.
There was also a request for further information about proof. I assume this goes to Ms. Ballard and Mr. Carman. What proof do you have for the huge mismanagement statement? This person would be very interested in seeing that information. Where might that be seen?
So I think that there are many examples that demonstrate that. I think that one example is the fact that we have a program like this enterprise resource system that was supposed to cost the district $9 million and is now costing $29 million. The fact that we have $314 million that's allocated for teacher pay, only $301 million of that is actually being used for teacher pay, instead relying on an unstable funding source that could be taken away at every 4 years. We have the Citizens Financial Oversight Board that has seen millions of dollars that were being used for purposes that were not allowable under the referendum, and that money did have to be backfilled by the county. That's at least $2 million that were spent on capital outlay, which is not allowable under the referendum. So I think that the phrase "huge mismanagement," I think that is a kind of a phrase that is maybe a bit loaded for people, but I do think the evidence is there.
And any rebut from Ms. Saunders?
Absolutely. In terms of the spending for the ERP, we have a lot of oversight with another financial committee, an audit committee. We have state auditors. We have hired internal auditors and external auditors. There is a lot of transparency with our finances. And as you will see, if you go on to our website and our pages, there is no evidence of mismanagement. There is evidence that the system was expanded and it did cost more, and it was approved and supported by the board and all those involved that it was needed at the time. So the fact that we just completed that system and went live in 2018 and it is functioning would probably be a financial blunder to go back and disregard that and spend millions of dollars to purchase something else and to reconfigure a new system. So that is why we're not going down that path at this time. In terms of the CFOC committee, our report and all of our spending is listed on our website. In the beginning, first year, there was conversation of expanding and doing some capital improvements on a science wing. There did take some time for a legal ruling within our board attorney to state that he didn't think the intent of capital construction, even though it was for science, should be spent that way. So then that's when that $2 million was changed. That's why we have the Citizens Oversight Committee, to ensure that the decisions, especially early on in the very beginning when we were trying to get our footing, to make sure that we're spending the money as intended. The referendum was very clear, and we want to make sure that we're doing it as intended. But all of our spending is listed on our website, and we did spend last year, we're at 96%, and there is no mismanagement or anything founded.
Another question would go to you, Dr. Saunders, is if the referendum doesn't pass, what happens to teachers' pay increase since 2018?
A very good question. The amount of money from the millage that goes to teachers is 24 million. I know it was stated that we use that for all of teachers' pay and they don't get a raise anywhere else. That's not true. Each year we have given teacher raises with the discretionary money that we are afforded. This year we have $6.4 million. That will be negotiated for all compensation with our union leaders. So they will get a raise, but it's not equivalent to $24 million. Those additional dollars for the extended learning time and supplement would go away because we do not have $24 million in discretionary money to pay for that. Would they still get the allotment of 6.4 million? Absolutely. But they would essentially get a 10% pay cut because that's how much each teacher is receiving from the millage.
And does that mean they would also cut the time they spend teaching?
Absolutely. We at this time do not have the funds available to compensate for that and to continue or to increase those amount of dollars. So if that goes away, anyone that's tied to that, it would go away as well, including charter schools and anyone else that's receiving the millage dollars.
Amanda or Christopher, do you have a rebut?
I don't have anything at this time.
No, I don't believe so. No, I don't believe so. Actually, I do have one thing to add. It's something that Ms. Saunders really hasn't addressed, and that is I'd like to know what is happening with these general fund dollars for teacher pay that are not being spent on teacher pay. So if we have millions every year that are set aside for teacher pay that aren't being spent, where are those dollars going?
Ms. Saunders?
I'm not certain that I understand the question. Each year, there are millions of dollars set aside for teacher compensation, and teachers do receive a raise from there. It's ratified, teachers vote on that, and they do get raises out of the general fund, discretionary money. If you're talking about leftover money in the millage from that pot that was not spent each year, it rolls into the next year. And the teachers do receive that once we've determined and the board has approved our staffing allocation. So teachers do receive money in both areas. All those monies do go to them, but our 6.4 million right now that's set aside for raises will be negotiated with the unions and they will receive a raise. So they do get fund monies, and they have for years out of the general fund. 6.4 is not the same as 24 million though. So it's a big difference in monies.
Thank you. Alice, from what I can see, most of the questions in chat have been responded to, although there is some pretty healthy debate going on in
Yes.
chat.
Yeah.
I would like to proceed?
I think what we will want to let everybody know, first, I'd like to thank everybody for this lively debate and for your very informative, information, opinions, and we really appreciate having you here. Also, because there seems to be an alternative debate going on in chat, that when I post this in LWV, for League of Women Voters, lwvmanatee.org, if you go to where we stand, the bottom thing is videos, and it'll also be in our email. I will put not only this presentation, but I will put chat in there. So people can, they can actually look at the chat, because there's quite a lot going on there. It's an alternative debate in the chat. So, again, I'd like to thank our speakers for this lively exchange of ideas and positions. Thank everyone for coming here today. And don't forget to vote on November 2nd. Thank you.
Thank you.